Let me speak the truth no one wants to say. The world isn't destroyed by bombs alone. It's destroyed by silence. The kind of silence that looks away. When a child is screaming under rubble. The kind that scrolls past suffering, as if pain is just another story to skip. The silence that comes from leaders who love to speak about human rights until it's inconvenient to defend them. I look around and see people shouting for equality, for peace, for freedom. But somehow, when it comes to Gaza, the volume drops. Why? Because it's easier to stay silent than to stand against the powerful. It's easier to tweet a prayer than to face a truth that might cost you your comfort, your reputation, or your platform. And that's what breaks me. Not just the rockets, not just the blood, but the way we've normalized injustice, as long as it doesn't happen to us. You see, silence is not neutral. Silence is permission. When you stay silent, you're saying, this doesn't matter enough. And the tragedy of Gaza is that too many have chosen silence over humanity. We live in a time when compassion has become conditional. When we filter empathy through politics. When we decide whose pain is worth sharing and whose suffering we'll pretend not to see. And that, my friend, is moral bankruptcy. I've watched the news twist words until victims become villains and oppressors become heroes. I've heard people justify cruelty with religion, with policy, with fear. But you cannot build peace on propaganda. You cannot defend humanity while hiding from the truth. Gaza is not asking for your pity. It's asking for your voice. It's asking you to be human when humanity is on trial. And the test is simple. When you see injustice, do you speak or do you scroll? History won't remember your comfort. It will remember your courage or your silence. And silence, my friend, will be your confession. So I'll say this as loud as I can. You cannot claim to love God if you don't love His creation. You cannot claim to value peace if you turn your back on the broken. And you cannot say you stand for truth if Gaza's cries don't move you. The silence of the world is the loudest proof that humanity is losing its soul. And if we keep choosing quiet over courage, soon, there won't be anything left worth saving. Let me ask you something that no one seems to be asking anymore. When did the value of a human life start depending on the color of a passport? When did compassion start needing permission? Because the way the world looks at Gaza, it's like those lives don't count the same. I've seen the footage. The dust. The screams. The lifeless bodies being carried out of the rubble. And I ask myself, what have we become? When did we decide that justice was selective? That some children deserve prayers, while others deserve excuses? I hear people say, it's complicated. No. It's not complicated to know that killing children is wrong. It's not complicated to know that bombing hospitals and homes is not defense. It's destruction. It's not complicated to understand that silence in the face of murder is complicity. What's complicated is how we justify it. We say we believe in human rights, but we practice human privileges. We march for equality when it suits us. We cry for peace when it trends, and we post black squares when it's fashionable. But when Gaza bleeds, the world hides behind, it's political. No, it's not political. It's personal. Because if one child's death doesn't break your heart, then you've already lost what makes you human. You see, I don't care which side you think you're on. If your heart can still beat normally while watching a mother weep over her child, then you're not on any side. You're on the side of apathy. And apathy is what kills nations faster than war ever could. Every life is sacred. Every tear deserves to be seen. But the world has become numb, addicted to outrage and desensitized to suffering. We have learned to scroll past death like it's entertainment. We've turned pain into content and grief into hashtags. And I'll tell you something. The moment you need to justify why someone deserves to live, you've already crossed into darkness. Because the value of life is not determined by the headlines. It's determined by heaven. And heaven doesn't see nationality. Heaven doesn't see sides. It only sees the truth. And right now, that truth is ugly. We build walls, but not understanding. We build armies, but not empathy. We build wealth, but not worth. And that's why the world is burning. Because we've forgotten what we're supposed to protect. So, when you say, "I'm praying for peace," ask yourself, are you praying for peace? Or just for silence to return, so you don't have to feel uncomfortable? Because real peace doesn't come from ignoring pain. It comes from confronting it. If Gaza teaches us anything, it's this: life is precious, no matter where it's born. And until we remember that truth, humanity will keep burying its children and calling it politics. You know what disgusts me most about this generation of leaders? They've turned pain into politics. They sit in air-conditioned rooms, debating the lives of people they'll never meet, reducing souls to statistics and suffering to strategy. They talk about collateral damage, like they're discussing a chess move, not realizing those are real human beings under the rubble. Children, mothers, families. But they don't see faces. They see figures. They don't hear cries. They hear calculations. You watch the news and think you're seeing journalism. But what you're really watching is performance. Narratives dressed up as truth. Manipulation packaged as information. And behind it all, governments playing God with people's lives. They've turned Gaza into a headline, into a talking point, into a global PR war. And somewhere in between, the humanity got lost. The tragedy is not just what's happening. It's how normal it's become to justify it. How people can sit at dinner tables, discussing bombings like it's weather talk. How we've accepted pain as policy. They say, "It's complicated. No, it's not complicated. It's calculated. Every silence, every veto, every carefully crafted statement, all calculated. Because in the politics of pain, truth is dangerous, empathy is inconvenient, and justice, well, justice doesn't fit the agenda. But I'll tell you something the world forgot: pain has no nationality. Grief doesn't ask for permission to cry. And when injustice is politicized, truth becomes the first casualty. I've seen politicians stand behind podiums talking about defense, while defending the indefensible. They speak of democracy while funding destruction. They speak of peace while selling weapons. How do you talk about human rights with blood still fresh on your hands? This isn't a war between nations. It's a war between truth and hypocrisy, between the powerful and the powerless, between those who speak and those who suffer. You see, the politics of pain thrives on distance. Because the moment you feel the suffering, the moment you see that child, that mother, that broken home, you can't play politics anymore. You can only be human. And humanity doesn't need permission to act. But the world doesn't want humanity. It wants control. It wants to manage the outrage, decide who gets to be the victim, and who must stay silent. And that's why I'm speaking. Because I refuse to let pain be reduced to politics. I refuse to watch lies be dressed up as diplomacy. And I refuse to stand by while the world trades conscience for convenience. Gaza doesn't need politicians. It needs truth. And truth doesn't need translation. It just needs courage. So, the next time someone tells you it's complicated, look them in the eyes and say, no, it's cruel. Because cruelty is simple. And silence is the language that keeps it alive. But let me tell you something the world often forgets. Even in the shadow of destruction, even under the smoke of bombs, even when the world turns its back, Gaza stands. Not because of leaders, not because of governments, not because anyone promised them protection. Gaza stands because its people are warriors. Warriors of faith. Warriors of endurance. Warriors who refuse to let suffering define them. I've seen fathers with hands trembling from grief, rebuilding walls that were leveled overnight. I've seen mothers feeding children with what little they have, while whispering prayers through tears, praying that somehow life will continue. I've seen children learning under shattered roofs, drawing hope with crayons on broken walls. That, my friends, is courage. That, my friends, is resistance. You see, strength is not measured by the ability to conquer others. Strength is measured by the ability to rise when the world has knocked you down. By the ability to smile when everything around you screams despair. By the ability to hold on to hope when hope has been burned away, like the homes around you. And that's what makes Gaza dangerous. Not weapons, not rockets, not tunnels. It's the human spirit that refuses to break. It's faith that cannot be silenced. It's resilience that cannot be bought or destroyed. while the world debates politics, while newspapers print statistics, the people of Gaza are writing a story no one can erase. A story of survival, of unshakable dignity, of unwavering humanity. Let me be clear. I'm not romanticizing suffering. I'm not saying that pain is noble just because people endure it. But I am saying that when a people can endure this much and still love, still pray, still teach their children about hope, there is a power there that no army can touch. There is a lesson for the rest of the world. One we refuse to learn because it makes us uncomfortable. And maybe that's the cruelest irony. We watch suffering unfold. We see faith rising from the ashes, and yet we do nothing. We applaud endurance in our movies, in our stories, in our history books. But when it happens in real time, in Gaza, we turn away. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You cannot occupy faith. You cannot kill courage. You cannot silence hope. And that is why Gaza remains alive. Not in the headlines, not in the news clips, but in the hearts of its people. Every sunrise over Gaza is a rebellion against despair. Every hand that rebuilds a home, every mother that smiles through tears, every child that laughs in the rubble, they are the true resistance. They are stronger than any bomb, stronger than any blockade, stronger than any wall the world can build. So, when you think the story is just about conflict, remember this: it is about courage. It is about resilience. It is about humanity refusing to bow down. And the world could learn a lot from Gaza, if only it had the eyes to see and the heart to feel. Gaza is not just a place. Gaza is a mirror that reflects exactly who we are and what we've chosen to become. When you watch children run through rubble, when you see mothers holding lifeless babies, when you hear fathers whisper prayers over homes that no longer exist, you are being shown the truth about humanity. And here's the problem. Too many of us refuse to look. Too many of us are afraid to see what's reflected in that mirror, because it's uncomfortable. We look at Gaza and we say, it's complicated. We look at Gaza and we debate, strategize, and justify. We look at Gaza and we scroll. But if we were honest, we'd see that it's not complicated. It's conscience. It's courage. It's the question of whether we are human or just walking shadows. Every act of violence, there is a challenge to the world. Every child who dies in silence asks a question we refuse to answer. Where were you? And the answer the world has given too often is silence, excuses, and distraction. Gaza's suffering is the ultimate test of morality. Not politics, not religion, not alliances. Morality. If you see pain and choose comfort over compassion, that choice defines you more than any law, any ideology, any headline. Because the mirror doesn't lie. It shows your fear, your apathy, your willingness to look away. And yet, Gaza continues to teach. It teaches that courage exists in the most unexpected places. It teaches that resilience can rise, even from the darkest rubble. It teaches that humanity, even when it seems absent in the world, still survives in those who refuse to surrender to despair. But here's the hard truth. This mirror is unforgiving. You cannot claim innocence while ignoring suffering. You cannot call yourself moral while allowing injustice to go unchallenged. You cannot preach love while walking past broken children and burned homes. We think we are looking at Gaza, but in reality, Gaza is looking at us. It asks whether our compassion is real. It asks whether our empathy is conditional. It asks whether we will act, not just feel. And the reflection is clear. If we continue to hide behind convenience, behind neutrality, behind politics, the world we imagine we protect will crumble anyway. Because a society that tolerates injustice anywhere cannot claim justice anywhere. So here's my message to every person who sees this and feels uneasy. Don't look away. Face the mirror. Feel the discomfort. Let it shake you. Let it awaken something you've buried under distractions, under comfort, under indifference. Because Gaza is not just their story. It is ours. And the mirror is unforgiving. If you refuse to act, history will remember your silence. If you refuse to see, the truth will haunt you. And if you ignore the cries of the innocent, your soul will know the cost. Gaza is humanity's test, and the reflection is waiting.